I wanted to talk about feminine communication a bit.
Okay.
Because it's, it's that like, we're telling women how to be, but that's the offensive thing. I did the whole preamble about.
I know.
And then, but I don't think women understand how really deep. Okay, let's just say this. A feminine woman is marked by how she communicates in the world and how she is in the world. Like, I don't know how you can be feminine and not interact and show it in some way.
Right.
And probably the best way that someone shows it is the way they speak. Like how they talk, how they move about things. And first of all, let's just acknowledge that a lot of coaches and a lot of women think that being feminine is just wearing dresses or having big nails or eyelashes or big hair. Like, I will tell you right now, I do not look at or consider any of the outward signs of femininity, except for if they're signaling that this person really wants to be read as like non-binary or like a masculine person.
Right.
Other than that, like if someone's signaling that they're like rejecting any kind of feminine appearance, that's fine. But other than that, I do not look at any outward feminine signals of femininity and consider that anything about what we're talking about.
Right.
The whole pie, as far as I'm concerned, with femininity is how you move in the world in relationship to other energies, how you communicate with men, with other women, with children, with people, and how soft, permissive, and receptive you are.
Right.
And all of those things play out in conversation and in communication. And so that's why I wanted to talk about what is it like if a feminine woman communicates in this situation? What's it like in this situation? What would she say to really get herself aligned with that feminine energy so that she can, be able to harvest the fruits of radiance?
Right. Because I think today, a lot of women don't really. I think a lot of women are more embracing the outward appearance part of it. And I mean, hey, like I said before, who doesn't love a beautiful woman? People love beautiful women. But when it comes down to the under the surface level, that's what really counts. That's it's even the nonverbal communication. A lot of times, it's there's different aspects of what a woman shows as feminine, and like you said, I think a lot of women don't understand how to, or maybe they weren't even taught how to be feminine, or they didn't have that role model of a feminine woman in their lives. So, or maybe they grew up with a father, or grew up around a lot of guys. I know a lot of women that grew up with a lot of male cousins, a lot of grew up with a lot of brothers and didn't have a mother, and so maybe that is something that comes into play. I don't know how big of a percentage of women that is, but I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of women don't have they never had the visual, and so I guess we should talk about that. Like what is something that makes a woman feminine when it comes to communication? So, like what would be a way a woman is showing up as a feminine woman in a relationship with a guy, and maybe she doesn't, or I guess let's give some advice maybe.
Can we play that game first? I want to read some of the hater comments first.
Oh, let's do it.
So I made a video, a clip from our podcast, and I titled it "How to Share Emotions with a Masculine Man." Okay, this got a lot of likes. Right now the views, for me, this is a lot. Someone said, the very first comment, "Thank you, appreciate your advice." Okay, not a hater comment, but then it gets better.
Oh, let's hear it.
"This is not leadership. This is more game playing. Go away." Yes, sir. Okay, next. "Men being hurt because we tell them exactly what they did." Okay.
All right.
So, now, mind you, the whole video was about how can a woman share her emotions in a way that's effective, that's going to inspire his instinctual care? Like, the only thing here is a heart for relationships to work well,
Right.
things to lead with another human being. And now I said something in one of these comments that I like. You know, I love some of the analogies I come up with, so I'm going to spin them again. If you walk into a Starbucks and stand in the doorway and go, coffee, do you think they're going to enjoy serving you coffee or know what the hell you want from the menu?
Absolutely.
No. There's a protocol when you walk into a Starbucks and you go, I'll do a venti pike drip with 3 stevia and room for cream, please. And that is the protocol by which you would order a coffee. But for some reason, when we talk about relationships with another being who has a different energy, different set of hormones, a different physiology, a different body, and you're sharing space, it all goes out the window, and we're just supposed to talk to each other like we're shouting coffee at each other. Coffee! You fucking idiot! There's a protocol. And it's not because I'm trying to dominate you. It's
Right.
because I want to serve you.
Yes.
And speaks to something deeper in me that inspires my care, my provision, and my protection for you. And that's why I want to talk about it. You need to learn the words so that you don't get kicked out of the Starbucks.
Exactly. You know, and I've seen a lot of women. I've seen this. I've seen women talk to their men any type of. I mean, I've seen dudes talk to their women any type of way as well. But since we're talking about women, you can't just attack. You can't come out like that. You're gonna provoke something else, like a different type of response that you don't really want. I mean, maybe a lot of women. Some women thrive off of that type of response. I don't know, but overall, if you want a man to respond to you in a tender but masculine way, and out of leadership and out of love, there's a certain way, like you said, you can't come out here coffee. You can't do that. You can't be like, you need to do this. Like, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. So there's another approach, you know, like, and kind of like what you talked about in the other episode, when you're explaining how you feel. There's a way to explain how you feel without pointing fingers. There's a way of telling how you feel without passing judgment. You know, you did this, and this is happening because you did this. It's like you're pointing fingers. Just talk about what you're feeling right now. Like, this is where you're allowing him to step up and to do his thing. It's gonna naturally come out. It's gonna come out if you just do it the right way. There's a protocol, like you said. You're allowing him to lead. You're allowing him to pull that information from you. You're allowing him to show that masculinity is coming out. So that little switch right there can change the dynamic of what could be a huge argument, and it could end up being a soothing understanding together of whatever the situation is, because you took the time to say, okay, I want to be a more feminine person. How can I get into my feminine energy so that he can be in his masculine energy, and we're both winning in this situation, rather than it's ending up a shouting match and now we're both in our masculines, and you know it's not going to work out and no one wins. Right.
You wouldn't go into a job interview and start criticizing the company that you were applying for a job at. There's a certain level of respect that we want to bring to things that we care about. It's an indication of care to learn the language and the protocol of communication. And I want to get back to some of these.
Oh, yes, let's hear them.
Comments, by the way. I have no time to babysit men like this. Carry on. You go. Your time is booked. I understand you're very busy. Thank you for leaving. Now this one tugs at my heart a little bit. Now, we were talking about sharing your emotions and not sharing the why. And she says, assuming he cares or is interested enough to ask questions, that's not happening.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's real tough, because if you're communicating your emotions in a feminine, soft way and he ignores you, first of all, I don't know. I mean, like, to turn on a dime after years of blame, it can be hard, right?
Yeah.
But I have a lot of compassion for this. If your man is not attentive to you, maybe he's not your man. I don't know if this happens on a repeated basis, if he ignores your emotions, if he doesn't care, if he doesn't ask, if he doesn't follow up, and you're not blaming him, leading him, or judging him. That's the caveat. You got to make sure those don't sneak in, and they're very sneaky. If he continually doesn't care about your authentic sharing, your vulnerable sharing of emotions, maybe he's not your man.
Absolutely. That's something that I think is the issue, because I feel that the fact that she was that I felt that was a little bit of hurt that she was kind of putting out there, and so this is most likely something that she's experienced, and probably either for a long period of time or with multiple different types of people. And in that situation, it's like there's got to be a time where you're gonna have to walk away. If a man, like you said, it might not be your man. He might not even be into you that way, or he might not have the skills or the emotional intelligence to be able to handle a woman's emotions. That it could be a lot of different things, but whatever the case may be, if he's not showing up for you in that type of way, and it's a multiple occasion it's happening, or it's been like this for a year, it's like, oh, well, baby girl, it's time to get out of there. It's time to get out of there. That's not the one. I want to hear some more of these.
Here's one. Okay, let's say it should not be this complicated. Fair enough. Wouldn't it be
wasn't coming.
Should not. I took some responsibility for it. Sometimes, like, I say things in really overly wrought, precise ways. So I was like, yeah, you're right. I said it weird. What does it say? Man, it's simple. Women are saying everything they don't want when. Sometimes people just don't write comments that make sense. Someone said, "Wow, light bulb moment." That's great.
Okay.
I love that. Now, this woman commented a couple times, and they were all negative things. So basically, again, women have to dance around the issue instead of putting things on the table like a fucking adult. Right? Like, I get it that it seems like, oh great, here's this thing that men are inept at again, that I have to do it because he can't do it. It could be, when there's not a polarity, when a woman feels like she has to be the mother, she has to be the provider and the protector. This shows up like, God damn it, do you mean there's another thing I have to do that he's inept at? Right. So this conversation's hitting in a world where women are mothering and leading their men, and they're tired, and they don't respect the incompetence of him playing video games all day and not working on himself. And I get it. What we're talking about is for polarized relationships where the man is leading, providing, protecting, and giving presence. So yeah, I mean, you can turn that ship, but it'll be real hard, especially if you if you resent him from the outset.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this comment, I think this represents quite a few women. I don't know how big of a percentage, but I do feel like this comment is what I hear this a lot. And I think that was the comment, because I was on that exact one that you posted, and I see that was the one comment that did stick out to me the most, because I think that a lot of women are with guys that are more on the feminine side, or there's a lot of men that have trauma that didn't deal with whatever mommy issues they have, and so a lot of times women get into these relationships and they end up thinking, and a lot of times these are men that look like they're, they might be big guys, muscular, they have the look. And so women put up with a lot of things for a longer period of time with these types of men. But deep down, there's something going on with them. There's trauma. There's things that they need to deal with. There's things that they need to really fix. They need to heal. I don't know what they need to. There's a lot of things they need to work on. But the women are staying with these types of men a lot longer, which is damaging the women The men are they're getting their motherly wound touched on right then. They're getting, the woman's probably taking care of them. They're, like I said, they're probably playing 2K at their house, chilling. They're probably driving their car. They probably don't have anything going. They barely have a part-time job. These are the types of men that prey on these types of women because they feel like they can get away with it. And a lot of them do get away with it for a long time. And usually it's, the way that they are, their look, and they seem like they're a very masculine guy, but at the core, they're a wounded child that they need that healing. They really just need to stop dating and just work on whatever it is and get to the point to where they can stand on their own 2 feet and they can become the man that can lead and that a woman can actually respect and look up to. But the issue is a lot of women are staying with these types of men for a long period of time, and like I said, it's damaging. And a woman like that deals with it's a lot of things. A woman can be with these types of men for such a long period of time and think that all men are like this. I always get with men like, we talked about that in another episode. I always get with men like this. It's like, it could be something that's inside of her that's causing her to attract these types of guys. But until you start to see what it is and see, like, okay, now I'm seeing that there's a light bulb moment here. I'm attracting this kind of guy over and over and over again. And maybe there's something inside of me that is making me want to be with this type of guy, or that is making me to feel like I need to help these type of men, or to nurse these types of men back to health, or whatever it might be. There might be something that you have to look at. But overall, we're talking about the man in the situation. Those types of men you should avoid. If he doesn't have, and I'm not saying like it's all about material things, but if he doesn't have a lot of these things, he doesn't have a job, he needs to stay at your house so that he can get himself on his feet, and he's playing video games at your house and stuff like that, and not, instead of getting a job, maybe just not go for that type of guy. Maybe have a certain type of standard where, hey, I'm not looking for a guy that's a millionaire, but I need you to live on your own, have your own transportation, and have your own sense of work. You don't have to be a millionaire, but you need to just be on your own 2 feet. That's the bare minimum.
I think Kanye said it best, like he does so much. He got that ambition, baby. Look in his eyes. This week it's the floor, next week it's the fries.
I love that line.
He said some other stuff too, but we won't bring that up.
Right.
Or we can. I mean, shoot. Let's. This is the other thing that we're not talking about, which is the broader economic and cultural situation that we're in now. I would venture to say is, I don't know, I don't want to get this wrong, because survival has been hard for every generation in its own way, from gathering wood to getting eaten by bears to, smallpox. Like, shit has gone down in every generation throughout history. Economically, where we are in the last 10-15 years is substantially different from how the boomers grew up. And I saw something today that is like, you could have a high school degree and raise 5 kids in a middle class suburban house. Right. And that's just not the case anymore. Yeah. The economic climate, the competition, and we're really seeing a squeeze where the best providers have to rise to the top. Mm-hmm. It's no longer adequate to have a high school degree and raise a family. I mean, like, you can't even, like, at least where I am, you college degree and you still have roommates. Yeah, it's you can, honestly, today a bachelor's is barely like a high school diploma. They're requiring you to have a bachelor's just to work at normal places now. Right. And that's just gonna get worse. I'm afraid. I mean, I don't want to project negativity into the future, but it is really time to assess the climate of jobs, and as a man, take a look and say, like, all right, AI's coming for me, robots are coming for me, Uber Eats is not going to be around much longer, DoorDash is not going to be around much longer. What do I have to do to set myself up for survival? Exactly. Times are changing, and the inflation is up.
We got the marketing crash is coming, the housing crash. We're already in a recession. They haven't stated it, but we're in a recession right now. All these different things. Like you said, it's all about preparation. And I think a lot of people right now are, they're probably scared, thinking about it, being able to provide and wanting to have a family and all these different types of things. It's expensive. Gas is at an all-time high, record highs. There's so many different things going on right now. And, I think this is a time where everyone needs to really look within. It's time to really stop trying to be a competition and look to, it's time to work together. Everyone's just freaking out and stuff, but there's so much division. It's time to really come together now.
Let's just look at it from a housing pricing standpoint. Mm-hmm. This is very practical and somewhat conjecture, but here we go. I'm afraid that many men and women don't have the relational skills to be able to share space well. And so that's another reason I'm doing what I'm doing is as the economic squeeze of individuals happens, we're going to be forced into cohabitation situations, right? Whether or not that's a romantic relationship, or if you have a roommate, or if you're moving back in with your family, this luxury of having your space to yourself is going to be more and more of a luxury for the few. Right. And we're going to have to develop the social tools to be able to cohabitate well. And for the people who are going to cohabitate in a romantic relationship, I think that this polarity dynamic, this symbiotic two-role relationship it's got my vote for the best way forward to share space together.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take 2020 for example. Look at what happened when 2020 happened and everyone's forced to be in their homes. Yeah. You had people that weren't in very happy relationships, probably because they didn't have the polarity. And now you're forced to be at home all the time together. And you've seen people be at each other's throats type of thing. Because if we talked about, if you got two dicks, no hole type of thing, those are the types of relationships, that's all the problems are going to come to the surface when you're forced to see the other person more than normal. Because, everyone was at home, everybody was with their kids, everybody was there. So, Imagine it gets to a point to where people really do have to work together even more, be together, live together, that type of thing, just to survive. You're going to want to have peace at the house. You're going to want to have love at the house.
Now, when you talk about not peace at the house, what you get is men say, I'll just leave. Mm. And I respect that of the fight or flight responses, flight is a response. However, you abandon your station as a leader in the relationship when you leave when things get tough. You refuse to continue developing yourself as a man. You refuse to develop the competence relationally to navigate difficult times and to actually bring peace. You are the peace bringer. You do it.
Right.
There's no outsourcing peace in a couple. Right. You are the leader. Be a leader, learn how to lead, learn that practical skills about how to talk to your woman to get her to a place of peace, to get her expressing her emotions and clearing out her trauma so that you can love her the way that she deserves.
Absolutely. And that's something that women also should look out for. Look out for a man that has great leadership skills. There's some men out here that look like they've got it all together, but do not possess any type of leadership skills. They don't know how to lead. A lot of men don't know how to communicate. And so if a man can't lead or communicate, those are two very vital skill sets that a man has to have. If that relationship's going to work, or any of his relationships are going to work, he has to be able to do those things. And then that's the woman's standpoint. As for men, that's something that it's all about self-improvement. That's what I talk about all the time. That's what we both talk about here, is self-improvement. So if you have bad leadership skills and bad communication skills, honestly, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're 18, if you're 35, if you're 26, there are so many resources we can use today to get out here and learn. You got YouTube, you got books, you got seminars, you got courses. There's plenty of different. You got college courses. There's plenty of types of things you can do. There's no excuse. So if you want to have a better quality of life in general, you need to learn leadership skills. And this is I feel like it's an essential and basic thing, but not every people have that skill. A lot of people maybe didn't have to learn it because they were babied or they had that cushion for so long. But it's getting down to the wire now, and it's really showing that leadership needs, especially in men, it's something that really needs to be cherished, because there's not a lot of men that know how to be leaders. Some people even know how to be a boss, but don't. That's a whole different ball game than an actual leader.
Right. Exactly. This is a good question to ask at the end of any podcast. A video went viral on my page about marriage, and particularly about divorce. It occurs to me that people don't understand the spiritual purpose of marriage really at all. Like it's like they see that marriage is about sex and kids and shared household responsibilities and companionship, and then maybe romance. I don't know, but to me, all of that stuff is built on being the face of God. And if you miss that part, all of the other stuff just becomes bicker worthy. It just becomes like it gets too big. It gets too important, and when it gets too big and too important, you start dissecting each other, and you start looking at it, and you start like looking at the divorce laws and stuff. Like, what really happens in a divorce is that I don't know. Like, the face of God never dissolves, right? But there's a big transition that happens spiritually too. And if you never had that, if you never really had the spiritual understanding of what marriage was as reflecting the face of God on earth, then maybe you're not missing anything. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people who have gone through divorce, and it embitters them, and they get hard, and they get sad, and they entrench themselves in victimhood to either their spouse or the courts or the circumstances in some way. And what divorce actually has the potential to be, even though it's difficult, is a chance to emerge from the ashes a better person than when you started the process. That's actually possible, to go through a divorce and to start seeing yourself like it's the whiplash that lets you look at yourself and say, holy shit, what have I become? And do I want to keep being this person? And that's really hard to do when you're confronted with a lot of threats, financially, legally, housing-wise, economically. It's hard to do, but you must, or else you will become like these people in my comments who are so sad and so bitter and just hate the other sex. It's not a good way to go.
I agree there, and I have to use my personal experience, because I actually am divorced. I'm young, but I got married really young, at like age 20, and it was a pretty crazy situation of what happened. She did me pretty wrong, but for the longest time I could have been a victim. I was really sad about the situation. I was hurt about the situation, but after a while of what happened, when I came to, and I took the time, I think it took me, really, to get over the situation, it took me about 2 to 3 years to get over it. But when I finally got through it, I realized, this could have been something that happened 20 years down the road. And, because the marriage only lasted like 3 years. But it could have been something that happened 20 or 30, 40 years later down the road with kids involved and stuff like that. And it didn't happen for me. And that, I looked at it as a blessing. Because you know what? I was a very naive guy. I did put my best intentions out there, but I didn't know a whole lot. I was still very inexperienced. I was very sheltered. I didn't know a lot of things. I married young, just like my parents married young. My parents are still together. They've been married for almost 40 years now, though. But I seen what they did, and I followed in their footsteps. It didn't work out for me because it wasn't the right person. But I'm glad that I found out it wasn't the right person in 3 years rather than 20 or 30 years. But my point of saying all that is, we might not always get it right, you know, and things like that, but there's always a positive way you can look at it. There's always a way to, you know, to flip it around, to change your perspective. And I learned a lot out of that whole situation. I learned things that I needed to work on myself. I learned things that you know, that I needed to better myself in, and things to look out for. I seen plenty of red flags, but I covered my eyes because, you know, I'm in love and all this stuff, and I don't see it. But, you know, but I'm glad that I went through that. I'm thankful for that pain that I went through. I can say now, at the place I'm at, yes, I've been married before, and yes, that was a scary situation, but I'm not afraid to marry again. I eventually would like to be with the right woman, because kind of like how you said, in a healthy marriage, it's like the face of God. It's like bringing heaven on earth when two people are coming together in harmony. Their differences are coming together. You're both together, you know, with a vision and goal in mind, and you guys are able to manifest all things you want together, and bringing a family into this world. And it's beautiful. It's really a beautiful thing when people think about it in that sense. Marriage can be a very beautiful thing. In the face of God, it's two people coming together. It's two halves of the spectrum working together to bring heaven onto earth. And I think that's such a really beautiful thing. And I'm not scared to try again. You know, I never wanted to be that bitter guy. Like you said, the guys in the comments and just hating on women. I never wanted that. I did see myself almost turn to that at one point. But in the situation of me, you know, using retrospect and going back and introspective and like looking aside and seeing the things that I need to work on, I was like, you know what? I can personally say right now to this day, I still have love for my ex-wife. I wish no bad against her. She did me wrong, but I've forgiven her and I've moved on. And forgiveness is for you. That's not for the other person. It's for you. That's to drop that weight and stop holding these grudges. People don't understand holding grudges and being bitter. That stuff harbors inside of you. This is where different illnesses come from. This is where, you know, people get stomach cancer, all these different things. This is all real stuff. You don't want to harbor that type of stuff. So, you know, this message is out for the men that have already gone through, you know, divorce or might be facing divorce right now. Just know that, yeah, it might be bad. It might be, you know, terrible right now in this moment, but there is another side of it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can reinvent yourself. That is not who you are. That the failed marriage or the divorce or whatever happened is not you. So just know that you can reinvent yourself. You can move forward. You can have an even better life. You know, you can find that woman that is gonna make you feel as if like you are a king, even though you are a king. But there's someone that's gonna help you feel even more complete and even more whole. You guys are gonna be able to work together in harmony instead of fighting each other. You're gonna be in harmony, and it's out there. It's out there. It's coming to you. You're coming to her. You guys are looking for each other. You just got to keep that, you know, keep getting better, keep self-improving, and, you know, keep your mental state as positive and as high vibration as you can. And it's going to come to you. And that's all I really wanted to say.
I love it, dude. All right. Good talk.
Hey, good talk, man. Thank you for another great one. Stay elevated, y'all.